a very good morning to all of you, and also take this opportunity to wish you a very, very happy Dhanteras and, of course, a very happy Diwali, which will be on the 4th. So, all the best to all of you. I will take you through briefly to give you an overview of agri-inputs industry landscape. Indian agrochemical industry faced multiple headwinds in form of erratic monsoon distribution, input material shortages, and shipment delays in Q2 financial year 22. Though the overall India level monsoon season rainfall, as in many reports you will find that it says it is normal, but lower rainfall in July and August months, which are the peak Kharif months, followed by excess rainfall in September month, adversely affected the Kharif season. Flood-like situation in key agricultural geographies across India further compounded the situation and impacted the spraying activity in the fields. Various estimates suggest that the overall agrochemical industry sales recorded a lower growth in current quarter, primarily on account of higher base in last financial year due to spillover of the first quarter to second quarter due to COVID, and higher cost pressure in form of spiraling input costs on account of material shortages and escalating logistic freight rates, which led to weakening of industry's margin profile. Despite inconsistent rainfall and unfavorable climatic environment and spiraling cost in the second quarter of current financial year, we are able to maintain our performance in this quarter and also record a 9% year-to-year growth in the first half of the current financial year, which as per our understanding is better or far better than the overall industry estimates. We continue to focus on disciplined sales through monitoring ground level liquidations, consumption patterns, and disciplined credit policies, along with collections from channel partners. For the Indian agrochemical industry, we anticipate a good Rabi season on back of sufficient level of moisture in the soil, and even the reserves of water is at a very good level. However, at the same time, the industry is expected to face rising, or I should say further rising input costs due to reasons well known to everyone, and margin may come under pressure during second half. It will be our endeavor to pass on as much cost as possible to the markets, but one has to see the level of stocks in the market of the last Kharif season, and also how the competition behaves in the market. We have seen that the cost increases are easily passed on for our export business. It has been very easy to pass on the cost in the international market, but Indian market remains a challenge. As a company, we have taken reasonable initiatives in this regard in last few months, due to which we were able to protect our margins, and situation in second half is expected to be more challenging for the entire industry. I can assure you that we will gear ourselves up to face this challenge. With that, I will now hand over the call to Mr. Sushil Marfatia, our Executive Director, to take you through the financial of Q2 and H1 22. Sushil bhai.
Good morning, everyone. Consolidated Q2 and H1 FY22 financials. We recorded sales of 910 crores in Q2 FY22 as compared to rupees 902 crores in Q2 FY21. The sales growth was flattish on account of higher base effect of last year and erratic monsoon distribution as explained earlier. EBITDA came in at rupees 415 crores in Q2 FY22 as compared to 219 crores in same period last year. EBITDA margin in the current quarter stood at 23.6% as compared to 24.3% in Q2 FY21. The marginal reduction in EBITDA margin was primarily on account of higher input cost for some of the products and higher logistic and distribution costs, which cannot be passed on to the customers. Profit after tax stood at rupees 154 crores in Q2 FY22 as compared to rupees 158 crores in the same quarter last year. Profit after tax margin stood at 16.9% versus 17.5% in Q2 FY21. Now coming to our consolidated performance for the first half of FY22. Revenue from operations in H1 FY22 stood at 1692 crores, up by 9% compared to 1550 crores in H1 FY21. In H1 FY22, domestic agrochemical revenues contribute about 85% of our overall revenues, with export contributing the rest. In H1 FY22, insecticides contributed about 47% of total revenue, while herbicide, plant growth regulator, and fungicides contributing about 21, 12, and 10% of total revenue respectively. EBITDA witnessed a growth of 8% from rupees 338 crores in H1 FY21 to rupees 365 crores in H1 FY22. Our EBITDA margin stood at 21.5% in H1 FY22 as compared to 21.8% in the same period last year. We were able to sustain operating margin on higher base due to initiative taken to pass on the higher input cost. At the same time, improvement in operating leverage due to improved operational efficiencies, better product mix, cost optimization, and merger synergies enabled us in maintaining our operating margin. Profit after tax for H1 FY22 witnessed a jump of 10% to 260 crore from 237 crore in H1 FY21. Our inventory levels are on higher side, primarily on account of lower than expected liquidation during the second quarter. However, this could provide buffer against unprecedented input cost increase in the current challenging environment. The increase in inventory days partly offset gains made in receivable days on account of increased focus on collection. During H1 FY22, our collections were rupees 1875 crores as compared to 1764 crores during H1 FY21. Our net working capital cycle stood at 75 days in this quarter as compared to 103 days in Q4 FY21. We have cash and cash equivalent of rupees 775 crores as on 30th September 2021 as compared to 532 crores as on 31st March 2021. In FY21, we had disclosed plan to undertake additional capex of rupees 100 to 110 crores over 2 years to manufacture 5 proprietary products for our parent company as Sumitomo Chemical Japan and our global affiliates. This was supplementary capex in addition to our regular capex for maintenance and capacity enhancement in the existing products. The capex is on schedule and we target the commercialization of these 5 products during FY 22-23. The project for these new products will come at our existing facilities and estimated operating margin are in line with current margin earned by our company for similar projects. As these products have growing global demand, we have potential to further grow capacities for some of these products in medium to long-term post above mentioned capex plan are successfully commercialized. Further, several additional products to be manufactured in India are under various stages of evaluation and discussion. Once the products are shortlisted, we shall provide you detail about our capex plans, which we will explore for the medium to long-term opportunities. With that, I now request my colleague, Dr. Suresh Ramachandran, our Chief Commercial Officer of our company, to give more information on our business operations. Dr. Suresh.
Thank you, Mr. Marfatia. Good morning, everybody. Let me start the conference by wishing you a very happy Dhanteras and a happy Diwali. Just getting into some business operational highlights. Currently, we have about 200 brands addressing various crop protection needs of the farmers, out of which more than 20 brands are mega brands with a very high level of brand recall. We have one of the largest distribution network with over 14,000 direct distributors, more than 40,000 dealers serviced through 60 depots situated across pan-India. We have a strong brand presence with market-leading positions across various product categories, wherein branded products constituted about 82% of our domestic revenue in financial year 21. In domestic agro solution division, we witnessed marginal growth largely on account of price rises. In animal nutrition and environmental health divisions, we witnessed significant growth partly due to volume increases and partly price rises. We also have enduring presence in several export markets. In exports, we witnessed robust growth mainly on account of volume increases, offset to some extent due to lower prices for some of the products in current year as compared to the previous year. On export business, our export business is growing rapidly due to synergies with our global affiliates network, especially in Latin American markets. We continue to see robust demand across our product portfolios, be it insecticides, herbicides, fungicides, PGRs, or biostimulant portfolio. We expect to gain market share from unorganized players, mainly on account of our high level of quality of the products and customer services that we offer to our entire range of customers, our strong supply chain network, and strong branding of our products. We aim to focus more on high growth, stable and high profitable segments such as herbicides, plant growth regulators, and biorational products. We plan to increase contribution from PGR segment and have increased product offerings for both Kharif and Rabi season as well to reduce seasonality in the business. Our direct connect with farmers through extensive field promotion activities is an enabler for them to have access to the best farm management practices and to maximize the productivity to run more efficient agri-business. This also helps us building our end customer loyalty and contribute to a strong business relationship and obtain real-time feedback. We have further strengthened, digital marketing as a parallel support to a traditional marketing system to create awareness about our products and educate farmers in best farm management practices. Our digital assets constitutes of 23 websites and several social media platforms via which we engage with 2 to 3 million farmers. In H1 FY22, we have launched one new product, each in herbicide, fungicide, and insecticide segment. We have similar robust line of products to be launched during this year and every year going forward. Additionally, our R&D team and product testing teams are working on manufacturing and marketing several products and some premixture combinations of products for Indian domestic market demand and export demand from our global affiliates, including high growth regions such as Latin America, Africa, and Asia Pacific. With that, we'll take a pause now and request the moderator to open the floor for questions. Over to you, moderator.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may please press star, then 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star, then 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Also, as a reminder, in order to ensure that the management is able to address questions from all participants in this conference call, please limit your questions to 2 per participant. For any further questions, you may come back for a follow-up. To ask a question, please press star, then 1. The first question is from the line of Amar Maurya from AlfAccurate Advisors. Please go ahead.
Thanks a lot for the opportunity, sir, and congratulations for a decent set of numbers and specifically on the margin in such challenging environment. So, sir, my first question is, we have seen a degrowth in the herbicide business despite, the glyphosate prices almost increasing 3.5 to 4 times. So, was this a RM issue for us or this was a demand issue?
No, neither. As a matter of fact, our glyphosate market has increased in size. The price increases are not 3.5 to 4 times. It is around, according to me, the price increase would be 20 to 25% max.
Okay.
And I think our volumes have gone up in glyphosate. We have no shortages of raw materials. There is no drop in the production. So I think I don't know where you see. If you see the herbicide our herbicide portfolio has grown from 21% last year to 24% this year.
You are saying first half versus first half, then you would be right. I was talking about specifically for the Q2.
For Q2, it is, you require proper rainfall for the wheat germination. And as July and August were absolutely dry months, as I said that in the month of September, there was so much of rain that the spraying activities could not take place. So that was the reason for lower sales in July, August and September.
Okay.
And we have no shortages of raw materials or no production constraint, etc. As a matter of fact, we are covered right up to December production. We are covered with the raw materials.
Okay. That is great, sir. Sir, secondly, in terms of our capacity expansion, just wanted to clarify the 5 products capacity which were likely to come. I believe partially 1 product capacity will come in financial year 22 and remaining 4 products will come in financial year 23. Is that correct?
No, that is not so. We have 1 product which will come in 22, which is not part of these 5 products. So actually we will have 6 products. So 1 product will come in 22, and the remaining 5 products will come in 22-23. Out of that these 5 products are coming in our Tarapur site. So Tarapur site, the products which we are already manufacturing today for exports, that capacity we have already enhanced.
Okay.
So we are getting the higher production this year, and the sales export of this product will be higher in the entire financial year as compared to the previous year.
Okay. So you are saying that 100 crore capex has 6 products, right? Not 5 products.
No, 100 crore, 100 to 110 crore is 5 products. There is another product which is coming up at Bhavnagar site. That capex is around 40 crores.
Everything together is 100 crore, you are right, I think.
Yeah.
So that 100 crore capex, I think as Shashank mentioned, I think 1 existing product which we are already producing at Tarapur, that has already come in this year. So if we count that out, there are 5 new products which are coming, for which CapEx is being incurred today, and all of these are expected to start commercialization during the course of financial year 22-23 at different quarters.
Okay. So for that 5 products, the capex is 60 crores, and this one product, the capex was 40 crore, right?
Actually, you can count that for all these 5 together, the capex is 100 crore. It is very difficult to bifurcate. So it's all together, it's about 100 crores, which will come in. So the capex is being spent today, this year and partly next year, and everything will commercialize during financial year 22-23.
Okay. Okay. And this one product, the capacity which we had expanded, was that you were talking about the tebuconazole?
No, it is not tebuconazole. This is a SCC proprietary product which we are manufacturing at our Tarapur site exclusively for shipments to our parent company SCC. Tebuconazole is our existing off-patent product which we are manufacturing at Bhavnagar, and that is supplied to various customers all over the world.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ankur Periwal from Axis Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Thanks for the opportunity and congratulations for a decent margin performance in tough environment. Sir, just one clarity from the earlier question. You mentioned we are adequately covered on the raw material side till December. Was that specific to herbicide or that was for the overall portfolio?
No, I answered that question specifically on glyphosate or herbicide because that was the question. But to your question, I can tell you that we are very well covered for all our technical productions right up to December. Some products we are covered right up to March, and we are not facing any difficulty in getting the shipments which we require. The only concern for the future will be at what price we get the shipments. But as of today, we are covered quite well, I would say, right up to December, and in some products right up to March.
Sure, sir. And from so RM availability is not an issue. Pricing is the only part. And in your comments earlier, you did mention exports pricing pass-through is still easier. Domestic may take some time. With that, so in that context, can you probably touch upon the channel inventory in the markets overall, specific to herbicide as well as the rest of the products?
No, so that is, as I said, that is a big challenge. I think there is overall inventory level is high, which we expect that it will be disposed of by December, because the Rabi season will start now November onwards. And November and December, we see in the market that a lot of old inventories are getting disposed of. Just to give a very small example, at the end of October, the whole of October we could not sell the glyphosate because we had increased or we had passed on the increased cost to the market. But in the last week of October, we saw a very good demand of our brand at a new price. So which means that the inventory is slowly getting liquidated. But overall situation of inventory is bad because of the failure of Kharif season.
Sure, sir. That's helpful. And just secondly, on the export side, now while I agree that probably on a quarter-on-quarter, I'm not too sure whether we should look at the export numbers there. But the quarterly run rate here has increased. So is this a trend or a base case scenario going ahead as well, with maybe further growth coming in once these 4-5 products also start contributing? And again, just one clarification, the timelines of these 5 products revenue contribution, will it start from the Kharif season itself or it will be slightly back-ended in FY23?
Okay, so yes, you are right. Export has increased, and we see very good growth in export even in the second half. I think this is a sustainable model. It is not a one-time situation. It is very highly sustainable because we are now exporting the products for which we have got new registrations. like our chlorpyrifos is doing very well in Brazil because of our new registration. We have aluminum phosphide registration in Brazil now. We have, our aluminum phosphide registration in the USA is also on the way. It should come very soon. And we are seeing a lot of demand of our generic products in Brazil and Latin America markets. So it's a highly sustainable business model, and we hope that this will continue to grow. Or we are rather confident that it will continue to grow. And to your second question, the timeline for this 5 products, I think one of the 5 products is a little ahead, a little earlier. So it will come, production should start in the beginning of financial year 22-23. And the remaining 4 products will come probably in the 3rd and the 4th quarter production. So that is the scenario.
Sure, sir. Very helpful. Thank you, and wish you a very happy Diwali. Thank you.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Satish Ramanathan from JM Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. Sorry, good morning, and happy Diwali to all of you. I have just one question. We are seeing this reports of fertilizer shortage in the country. I just want to understand if the crop area would drop because of that and consequently demand for our products. I just wanted to understand how bad is the situation as compared to what we read in the newspapers.
Yeah, fertilizer shortage, yes, it has been widely covered in the media for the last few days. And I think China situation is also contributing to this to some extent. But having said that, I think government is putting all the efforts to ensure, each of the state government to ensure the fertilizers are supplied. I don't think there is going to be a dramatic change or significant change in terms of cropping area or cropping pattern. Even today in fertilizer, the usage is more. Probably it's a blessing in disguise. Farmers would be forced to use a little bit lesser than what they would normally do. And in my personal view, I don't think it's going to dramatically change any cropping area.
Because we are seeing stories of farmers fighting and all these kind of things. So I just wanted to know, on the ground across India, you feel that we are comfortable, not comfortable, at least there is supply when required.
Yeah, as you said, I don't think we are at a comfortable situation like what used to be in the previous years. But for sure, I don't think it's an alarming situation. Yeah, I know you see reports in the media, but I have seen myself, traveling in some parts of the country over the last couple of weeks. There's a concern, but not to the extent that it would impact the cropping pattern.
Okay, and this will not necessarily impact our pesticide sales or anything of that sort?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Fine, sir. Thank you very much and wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Kapil Agarwal from Lotus Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi. So I have two open-ended questions. One would be, looking at the agrochemical business in India, there is no doubt it's heavily fragmented and commoditized in some areas. So are you seeing any industry gaps in products or geographical distribution that you are identifying and targeting? And if so, could you give a little detail into how you go through this process?
Can you please repeat? We couldn't hear you well. I think your
voice is not very clear.
Voice is getting
better now?
Yeah, now it's better.
Sure. So, looking at the agrochemical business in India, it's heavily fragmented and in some cases commoditized also. So, are there any industry gaps in products or in geographical distribution that you as a company have identified and are focusing on? And if so, could you describe your process to how you approach this?
Well, it's a very robust process. We have, the development team separately placed in each area of the country. We have a very robust marketing team. So what happens is that any opportunities, or say especially on combination products or the new products, we have a very intense development work. We screen the products. We take the trials in the field. This is even pre-registration or pre-marketing or anything. We just go through various products and screen them out with actual testing in the fields. And then the marketing and the sales, they get together after the screening process is over, and they say which is commercially product, those are viable, and to which pest and which crop, and where it can be used. So this is basically the process of screening out and deciding which products will come in. We have some very, very interesting products which are just currently registered or which will come in next 6 months time. So we have a very, very promising product range launch in the Kharif of 22. That is basically the process of screening the products and zeroing it down to which products to commercialize.
Sure, sir. Just to follow up on this, so you particularly find any industry gaps in the products before you try to test those for those particular products, or do you test products and then try to put it in the industry?
No, we do that. Like as for example, we see a gap in our portfolio for a unique product for brown plant hopper in rice, and we are working hard towards that. Even our parent company has developed a product for brown plant hopper, and we are looking forward to having that one day. And before that also, we are trying to tie up with some local companies for a brown plant hopper insecticide. So yeah, we do take stock of situation of the gaps of products in our own portfolio.
Got it. So my second question, sir, is regarding, when I look back at Sumitomo India's history, the primarily top line growth has come from inorganic acquisitions. And going forward in the next 5 years, are you looking at some similar path in terms of to gain either market share or to expand your product portfolio? Are you looking at inorganic acquisition?
Well, that is not a shut idea. We are looking at it, but we need to find, with our size of the company and our range of products, we have to find a very suitable match for that acquisition. It is very much on our minds, and maybe the acquisition can come not only through another agrochemical company, but even the related agro activity companies, like the delivery systems is going to be very, very important in next 5 to 10 years. We see that there could be a lot of changes in the usage of pesticides or the delivery of pesticides in the fields. As for example, drones. We see a lot of opportunity in drones application or any such similar unique application system. So the acquisition can be also in those areas. So we are looking at overall, including agrochemical companies. We will also look at the entire agro system and then decide on acquisition.
Yeah. And just to add here, Kapil, I think on your comment that I think large part of the growth has come inorganically. So we'd also like to highlight that organically also our teams have really performed well. We would like to give you example. Our specialty proprietary business of the global molecules, in that business we have not done any inorganic growth, and that business, which was like roughly about say 1 billion INR about say 10 years back, it is almost like 8 to 9 billion INR. So it is 8x growth in 10 years. if we look at the new Chemie business which we acquired in year 2010, that business is almost 4x now in last 10 years. And if we look at Excel Crop Care business, the off-patent business which we acquired in year 2016-17, that business is also, I think, between 1.75 to 2x currently. So a lot of these growths have come organically also in addition to the inorganic growth. So it is a combination of both organic and inorganic growth.
Perfectly understood, sir. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Gagan Thareja from ASK Investment Managers. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Good morning, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Sounding a little low.
Yeah. Better now?
Yes, much
Hello.
better. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity, sir. My first question is around the CRAMS, the 6 molecules that you indicated. I think 5 you said will come next year on. 1 out of that will come early on next year and 4 in the second half. And 1 you have already, which you will commercialize in FY22. I mean, has the commercialization of that 1 already started, or is it due in the second half?
The production will not start. The capex, the machinery, erection, everything is on, and we are planning to start production in the month of March 22. However, due to the timeline may go 1 month off in today's situation of materials, all steel, everything has gone up. So we are taking a very careful look at that. We don't want to overrun our capex. So, but March is likely to start that 1 product will start in March. And the other five products, as I said, will start in different stages in 22-23. One of the products, what
I expect to start in March.
Sorry.
Sorry, I just wanted to know the capex that you have undertaken for this 1 product, which you will commission by March.
Yeah, that is what we have. Our target line is March.
It is not a very large material, capex amount so we have not disclosed that.
Right. The reason I'm asking is, you've indicated that 110 crores that you spend on the other 5 can have a revenue potential of around 200 to 250 crores as per your presentation. I'm just trying to understand, what could be the contribution of this additional 1 product possibly?
No, so I think Shashank has explained, this is basically about this 5 products and this total 100 crore capex and this 200 crore revenue, which will come during the course of 22-23. And what we are doing this year is part of one of the existing product portfolio where we have increased the capacities and the numbers like the capex versus the revenue generation and all, it is in line with our company's existing portfolio and whatever we have disclosed for these 5 products. So it is broadly in that same line basically.
Okay. And if I look at the exports growth for the first half of this year, I think it's almost around 50% if I've got it right. And I think there was also an indication that export growth will remain in a high growth trajectory. Would you say that the growth that you've seen in the first half for exports is representative of what growth you can see in exports in maybe the second half or next year or so on? Or are we looking at numbers which could be materially different from what we've seen in the first half?
No, as I said that this is highly sustainable business model, and we feel that due to our new registrations globally, we will this growth is not a one-time growth or not a market situation goes. It will remain quite sustainable.
Okay. So while some bit of it is going to come from those 5 products as and when they start contributing, if you could elaborate a little more on exports, how have registrations grown? What are your plans specifically around the LATAM geography? Also, if you could give an indication of when SCC's proprietary molecule related to which you might be able to expand sales of tebuconazole, when does that happen for you? If just to understand how exports are going to grow for you.
Yeah, so that launch is planned at the end of this year for that product in Latin America, and we have already started discussions, and LATAM is also very keen to know how much we can produce, how much we can ship to them, etc. So all those talks are on the way, and we see tebuconazole to be growing quite well. We see chlorpyrifos also growing very well in Brazil. We have another product which we have started, fluroxypril, which we have started producing, and that is also very high demand in Latin America. So we see this 3, 4, 5 products which will give us very good platform to grow our exports.
Right. And is it also possible to understand, if one were to say look 3 to 5 years out, what could be the salience of exports in your total sales? Today, I think it stands at 17 to 18%, but since it's going to grow faster, if you could give some idea as to where what we should think of sales composition with a view to exports, maybe 3 to 5 years out.
I have said this earlier, maybe in earlier calls. We are not looking at export and domestic percentage-wise. We want to grow all the businesses. So we want to grow domestic. So maybe in 1 year, export will grow much faster than domestic, like because of the climatic conditions in the current year. Export grew much faster than the domestic. So it is a question of that, but we don't want to see that we want a target of say 30% export in coming years as a composition of our overall sales. We want to grow both. We want to grow exports and we want to grow our domestic sales as well. And that is why there are so many new products introduction coming in. I think next year, I think we have a very challenging year. We have almost 6 products in the domestic market. So domestic market also is likely to grow. Now, percentage-wise, maybe it will be plus minus. Maybe export will be more or domestic will be more. But our aim is not to only concentrate on growing export. Our aim is to grow the overall business. And we are doing fine with exports, and we want to see a similar type of growth even in domestic market.
And are receivable days for exports quite similar to domestic market, or is it very different in terms of net working capital exports?
No, it is not different. In some markets, we have to give credit. In some markets, we get LC on site. But it is quite similar. It's not worse off than the domestic credit sales.
And the 6 products that you're going to or you plan to introduce in the domestic market, if you could give some idea, are they largely in the targeted growth areas for you, or are they spread, sort of across insecticides, herbicides, and?
No, they are in our target growth area. So I think 2 or 3 products are all biostimulants. Which will be, as a part of our strategy, we want to grow biostimulants in India. So almost 3 products out of 6 are biostimulants. And
just to add, these are some of the products maybe in the same segment, but the better superior performance compared to the existing products in the market. That will help us to grow. And like Mr. Shah mentioned, couple of products are in the biostimulant segments, which are growing, very nicely in the country.
Right. It's a final question. I mean, the overall, if you look at the overall market for crop protection in India, it tends to grow across cycles at a very steady 5 to 8%, if I've understood it well. And obviously, the underlying segments in insecticides, fungicides, and as you say, biostimulants and plant nutrition and so on, have different addressable market sizes and different growths. If you could give, some idea of how, the different segments are sized and generally, what's the growth trajectory in these underlying segments, it would be of great help if you could do that.
See, Indian pesticide market is about, somewhere around $2.7, $2.8 billion. Roughly 45 to 47% is insecticide, which is the largest one. I would say growing about 6 to 7% because the base is large. Fungicides and herbicides are almost equal, approximately $500 to $600 million each, growing at about 10-12%. It again depends on the year. On a long-term average CAGR, if I look at it, somewhere around 10 to 12%. The base is low, and also because of the labor, non-availability of labor, and also availability of labor at the right time is getting more and more challenging. That's why herbicides tend to grow a little bit faster than fungicides. So PGRs or biostimulants, what we call, roughly contributes about 5 to 8% of the market. Probably because of the small size, it's going at about 15 to 18% per annum on a CAGR basis.
And from a crop standpoint, your exposure would be outsized to any 2 or 3 particular crops?
Obviously, in India, the biggest pesticide consuming crop is rice. So naturally, we have a strong portfolio and strong presence in rice, and that's probably contributing to a significant portion of our revenue. Followed by, fruits and vegetables, growing fast, very fast market. And then cotton. Still cotton is the biggest market in India. So these 3-4 crops, and then, you have rest of the crops like soybean, wheat, groundnut, those are the other crops.
Thanks a lot, sir. I'll get back in the queue.
The next question is from the line of Manish Gupta from Solidarity. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. I had 3 questions, sir. The first question was that, many of our chemical companies that also are in the agrochemical space, many of them feel very confident that, there's a 15 to 20% kind of growth visibility for the next decade for the Indian industry. So, if you look at your growth plans on a more longer term perspective, do you think your exports on a CAGR basis, not year on year, but your exports could grow at 15-20% for a decade from now? That's my first question.
Well, yeah, we are looking at it. See, we are in the process of getting registrations in multiple countries across the globe, and hopefully those markets will also have to respond, growing in that respect. Yes, we have plans, and it's very difficult to put a percentage for over a period of 8 to 10 years. So our endeavor would be, yes, we want to be better than the competition and delivering the growth. So it's I don't know if you can answer that.
I was just wondering, sir, whether you found my numbers too conservative, and that's why you were laughing.
No.
We were not laughing at that.
I was just telling Suresh that, now this is a target for you. That's why we were laughing because of that.
Okay. My second question, sir, was that, given that a lot of your exports are actually going to Sumitomo, how do you think about pricing of this? How much margin is retained in India? How much margin is retained overseas? How do you guys arrive at that price?
No, see, our pricing is absolutely at arm's length, and it is all the pricing, whether it is Sumitomo or our own subsidiary or wherever, whatever we do is put up to the audit committee, and they look at the arm's length and all those parameters, and only that. So we keep it's not a crime type of a situation. It is buying and selling, but since it is to a related party, we make sure that our pricing is as per our normal norms, and we would not be selling cheaper as compared to what we would sell to other parties, and they are not going to pay us any premium than what they are going to get from other suppliers. So it's absolutely at arm's length and very clear-cut understanding with the parent company. And like Brazil prices are decided between us and Brazil. Japan does not even come into the picture. So it is purely the buying-selling economics. Whether they can afford this price, whether we can afford the price to sell, and whether it is at arm's length or not. So it's a very clear-cut policy.
And currently, sir, Brazil would be importing mainly from China. Would that be a fair assumption?
Yes.
So given that, again, I'm not being able to understand what arm's length means, right? Because say you were in India and you had a group company, you could say that, the group company has to match the price another supplier in India is providing. But, here there are strategic issues as well, right? The whole world is trying to de-risk from China. So how do you weigh what is fair price when a strategic need to de-risk becomes more important than the price? So in this scenario, how do you come up with fair price? Because say the costs in the short term in India might be higher for power, infrastructure inefficiencies and all that. So I think what I'm struggling with is that when there are strategic considerations, how do you decide what is arm's length?
No, arm's length is very clearly decided. Like suppose if I am selling product X at price Y to somebody, and if I have to sell the same product at Y minus something, that is not at arm's length. So it is not that we are selling our products only to Sumitomo Group or affiliated companies. We are our entire original export before this came into the picture of Sumitomo subsidiary. We have our own exports to almost 80 countries. So we have a well-established prices. Now, of course, there could be some compulsion somewhere at the time of seeing the volumes or seeing the, how far the commitment of purchase is there, what are the quantities, etc. That can be another consideration. But by and large, we make sure that it is at arm's length. So similarly, the arm's length will also apply to the company in Brazil. So they also cannot buy at a price higher than what they are going to get it, say, from China. Of course, there is always between China and India, there is always some premium. So we have always, throughout the years of our exports, we have always got some premium over the Chinese price. Now that can be because of quality, because of the faith, because of the services, because of the commitments, etc., etc. You can't get the same commitment from China as compared to us. So we do get some premium, but that premium cannot be either exorbitant or under at the same price. There will be some premium for sure.
Right, sir. My last question, sir, is that there is a lot of money being spent in rural India, and it is the stated aspiration of the Prime Minister to double farm incomes. My question is that, do we see an S-curve effect playing out where spending on agri inputs could actually step up in this decade as farmers get both more educated and also have more incomes to reinvest back in their farms? So could we actually see, the 5 to 6% kind of growth rate that one has typically seen for crop protection notch up a little bit in this coming decade?
Yeah, actually there are two aspects to it. One is the reason which you have mentioned, of course, is very valid that the growth can come because of that. And the second reason is that we are at such low consumption per acre of agrochemicals that with the export markets of the crops like vegetables, fruits, other things, as the export market grows and farmer gets that open market or the produce that can be exported, or even find a better sales price in domestic market, the consumption of pesticide is likely to go up. That is what the general feeling of ours is.
So the question is that, do you think this growth rate will notch up over what it is right now, or the same growth rates will be maintained?
I think it can go up.
Yeah, it can go up for two reasons. One, probably the input usage will increase, like Mr. Chetan Bhai just explained. And also, if you look at a long period of 10 years, many new technologies would come. Obviously, those new technologies would be, is going to be a little bit expensive than what the current technologies are. So on account of value as well as the treated area, the overall market size would increase over a longer period of time, maybe 5 years, 10 years.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Prashant Biyani from Elara Capital. Please go ahead.
In the last 1 month, we have seen a decent amount of price increase in glyphosate and other products. How much of that have you passed on the branded products, and how much do you see the demand getting impacted because of that?
Well, actually, we have passed on the cost increase to some extent, not 100% yet. As at the beginning of the conversation, Mr. Chetan Bhai mentioned that there was the season was not good. The consumption, especially herbicide, did not go off well, and there was inventory in the market of glyphosate. We are talking about specifically glyphosate. So there was initial, slow pickup of our product, but towards the end of October, last, I would say 1 week to 10 days, our new prices is getting accepted because the old inventory is getting exhausted in the market of all the brands of glyphosate. So going forward, I'm sure, it will pick up further in the coming months.
We are not concerned or worried about passing on the cost as of today. Whatever cost increases of the raw material prices, not only raw material prices, but you are surely aware that all the metals like tin or aluminum or HDP or LDP has gone up. All the packaging material like, even the paper prices have hit the roof. A lot of cost increases are there. Besides the raw material price increases from China. So we have, as of today, we are not worried that we will be able to pass on this cost increase or not. We have passed on the cost increases. The real challenge is going to be what about the price increases which will come in the fourth quarter, which will have to be sold in the Kharif of 22-23. That is a real challenge. So that price increase also, we'll have to see on the basis of how Rabi season goes this year. The Kharif will depend on that. So there will be a lot of cost increases which will have to be passed on even in the Kharif of 22, besides whatever we have done so far.
Right. And so for the domestic business, how much was the volume growth or decline in quarter 2?
Volume growth was how much down? His question is, how much was in Q2 volume growth down? Volume and price, you had that.
H1 what?
Not H1.
Q2. Q2. I don't think.
We have H1 figures readily available.
That will do.
So H1, I think if we look at the agro solution business, I think broadly our volumes are in line as compared to last year, and most of the increase is coming from the price increases. And in the animal nutrition businesses, we have excellent growth in both volumes and prices. So is in environmental health EHE divisions also. In exports, we have, I think, very good volume growths, about almost 30 to 35%, but there was some bit of a price reductions in some of the products in exports market. So overall price variance in exports is negative, but volume variance is there.
The price variance is negative because the tebuconazole, one product, single product, the prices had gone down significantly as compared to previous years. So, but at the same time, the cost also have come down. So, but when you see the figures, comparable figures, then you will see the little bit of value drop.
Okay. And so, while on the branded side of the business, we will launch 6 new products next year. On the technical side, how much molecules have we commercialized this year, and what are the plans for next year?
No, these are basically imported from our affiliate company, Valent Bioscience in USA. 3 products are coming from there. And one product is, of course, the Indian manufacturer. Other 2 products also will be Indian manufacturers, which we are tying up for supplies and marketing. But 3 products with biostimulants I talked about, they all are from Valent Bioscience USA.
So my question was on the technical side, how much molecules are we commercializing this year and next year?
So Prashant, the technical side for manufacturing point of view, whatever commercialization are we doing this year and next year is all related to the SCC's proprietary products in the off-patent segment. Right now, immediately next, say 12 to 18 months or 2 years, there are no products. But in a medium term, say between 2 to 5 years, there are some products which are under R&D and process developments.
And so lastly, our parent procures tebuconazole from one of our domestic competitors. Now, going forward, will the volume offtake from that company remain as it is? Or now that we are manufacturing tebuconazole here in India for a long time, is the parent going to procure all this requirement of tebuconazole from us?
Oh, they are free to buy from anywhere, right? They have got existing suppliers, but we have to pitch for our tebuconazole sale to them by giving them the quality they want, giving them the competitive prices which they get from China, etc. So, of course, they are very keen to buy from China, from India, from us, and that could be partly, because of even de-risking some small percentage of their volumes from China. So we see it is not just because it is an affiliate company, it cannot be that we have a clean run to sell our products. We have to prove ourselves to sell. We have to be in line with competition.
No, that's true, but sir, we are already selling some of the tebuconazole. So I would assume that we are.
Yes, our tebuconazole volumes to Brazil are going up. We are seeing the increase in the volumes and even the indications which they have given us for next 1 year. We are talking about a very, very healthy, good volumes, much higher than what we have been supplying. So that is all in place. And your other question was that the parent company, yes, they are getting toll manufacture one product. It's a fungicide, which they are procuring from outside, and we have no plans, or we have no, we have not seen to get into that product. So I think it's a very, very small product, maybe 100 tons per year, but they are procuring from elsewhere, and they will continue to procure from there. So we have no plans to disturb that arrangement. But all the other new products which are coming in from them, from our parent company, they are all coming to us now. So these 5 products also which we are talking about manufacturing, they have all come from Japan, and we will be manufacturing it over here. So any new arrangements of any products should come to us, again, provided we are competitive and, of course, they have faith in our technology or our working or our capabilities. But at the end of the day, finance or the commercial reasons are commercial reasons. So as long as we meet their expectation on pricing, etc., we will keep on getting the products from them.
Okay, sir. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Swati Hero from Ratnabali Investments. Please go ahead.
I first wanted to wish the entire team a happy Dhanteras. So my first question is that we have about 800 crores of cash on the books today, which is only going to increase going forward. So I just wanted to understand what would be our capital allocation and our dividend distribution policy going forward.
This dividend, happy Dhanteras to you too. The dividend policy is very clear. It is on our website, and you know that our capital base, right from Excel, Cropcare to now what has happened, and dividend policy will be, we'll follow our dividend policy, which is on our website. And as far as what we are going to do with 800 crores, yes, we are looking at expansions. We are looking at, as I mentioned, that even inorganic growth, it will come in handy. Also, I think in our business, I firmly believe over a period of last maybe 15-20 years that in our business, cash is the king. And I think what I just mentioned on our inventory levels, many products right up to December production, many products right up to March, and things like that. That can only happen when you are sitting on money. I cannot borrow money, pay interest, and then do all these things. It is impossible to do it. So I think cash is coming in quite handy to us, and we'll see some benefit of having this cash in terms of our cost being under control, or we'll not have to get entangled with this, funny prices of China as of today. So I think there are 2-3 avenues to utilize this cash, including inorganic growth.
And sorry, just a small factual correction. The amount is 775 crore as on 30th September, not 800 crore. Just for record.
My second question is that Sumitomo Japan, in one of their conference calls in somewhere around December 2019, they have mentioned that they have potentially found a substitute for glyphosate in their A2020 pipeline. Would you be able to shed some light on or any update on that?
No, this information is correct. They have a product. It is in a very initial stages, and we will get access to that product as and when they are about to commercialize. So we are also looking at that product because 5 years down the line, if there is a replacement of glyphosate, it will be very good for us.
But sorry, as Shah mentioned, I think this product is, expected to be very long-term product. So, I mean, we do not know the exact timelines, but maybe you can say 5 years or 10 years or something like this. But it is not going to come in short to medium term.
All right. All right.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Saurabh from Asian Market Securities. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. So first, I just wanted to know what is the investment you have made in the 2 new land parcels, what you have purchased, and any capex outlay we have finalized for on those lands?
So for this first question, what you mentioned, I think the total investments which we have made for these 2 land parcels is in the range of about 70 to 80 crore rupees in INR, which has already been completed. And for the further utilization of these land parcels, the plans are under evaluation, but nothing has been finalized. And as and when it has been approved or finalized, we will make announcements. But so far, I think it will still take time. These lands have been taken to secure the future expansions. And the 5 products which we have already announced, they are coming at our existing sites, as Mr. Marfatia had explained during his speech.
So in this new land parcel, we are looking at the products which are going off patent in 2022, etc. Lot of work our R&D has already completed. We are in 1 or 2 products, we are at the registration stage. So this new land parcels will be used for that expansion. So the expansion after these 5 products, we are screening almost another 5 products for the Dahej land, which will be the next expansion after 22-23. So I think all our blueprints should be ready by 22-23, and then the expansion and that capital outlay will be finalized.
Okay. So this new expansion at Dahej will be mix of the off-patented product and also for the few product for SCC Japan?
It could be. So far we are, these 5 products have come from Japan. Now we will, during next 1 year, if they want us to give some additional products, we can always think of putting that up along with our R&D pipeline projects. We can put up in Dahej as well. So Dahej is a large land. It is as big as our Bhavnagar site. So we will have a lot of opportunity to make a lot of products over there.
Okay. So the second question on this 5 products. So we have mentioned about 200 to 225 crore revenue from these 5 products. But just to understand, what is the total revenue size for the SCC from these 5 products?
I think they have given us the quantities of these 5 products, whatever they are making, because what I believe is that they are going to stop production of these 5 items in Japan, or 4 items at least they are going to stop, and 1 product which they may continue for some time. So 4 products they have given us the total requirement of Japan, and 1 product is part requirement.
Okay. And last one on the new launches. So of the 3 new launches, how many are in 9(3) and what number of products came in from the parent portfolio?
So out of 6 products which we are going to launch, already launched you are saying?
Yeah, already launched. 3 products already launched.
Which we mentioned. So for these products, I think basically the total revenue in the first half of the current year of these 3 products is about 22 crores. And if we look at the products which we have commercialized in last 2 to 3 years, the total contribution from these products is in the range of about 180 to 190 crores, which is almost like 11% of our total revenue.
So how many products of these new launches has come from the parent portfolio?
So I think in the last 6 months, in the first half, I think none of these products are from parent company, and these are in the pipeline for the second half and next year, as Shastran and Dr. Suresh mentioned earlier. So in current year, I think most of these launches are, I think, not from the global portfolio.
Okay. Thank you for your time and happy Diwali.
Happy Diwali.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we take the last question from the line of Dhavan Shah from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. So I have a question on the gross margins front. If I look at these quarterly numbers, the specialty revenue was up by around 80%, and the generic revenue was down by around 8% on YY basis. But if I look at the gross margins, it declined by roughly 90 basis points on YY. And if I am not wrong, I think we also built up inventory at the end of March to cater this Kharif season. So I think the old cost inventory should also be there. So I just wanted to understand these negative variance in terms of the gross margins, if you can help. And also, what is the gross margin differentiation between generic and specialty portfolio?
So in specialty group, there is no China effect or no price increase effect. So whether we have inventory in the month of March or April or May or June or July, that inventory, our cost is fixed for the year, and there is no escalation of pricing on the specialty front. So we will not get the advantage of low cost and higher prices. That's what I mean to say. It's all on a fixed annual price that we get specialty portfolios. And specialty portfolio whatever we have, we are seeing little bit of downfall is in margins or anything is only purely due to climatic conditions which we had to face this year. There are no other reasons.
Okay. And can you share the gross margin differentiation between these two, generic and specialty?
There will be a lot of difference because specialty will be around 40% plus, whereas generic would be 27-28%, close to 30%, but
okay.
Well, there might be some differences, but similarly, the specialty and the proprietary molecules require more investments in terms of the manpower and a lot of extra efforts. And overall, I think at the net profit level, the margin is not as, high. The differentiation, there is a differentiation of say 3-4%, but not significant difference at the net profit level.
Okay. So given this specialty are on annual contract basis, so the price revision would be from the next January calendar year or no? How is the price revision?
It is April to March.
Okay. And secondly, if I look at the export revenue for Japan and South America, so it reached to roughly 100 crore on the quarterly run rate basis. So we are going to commission this 5 new molecules for HCC Japan. And going ahead, we also purchased this land. So I wanted to understand the capex for, maybe we can go ahead for the LATAM market, because I think LATAM revenue, if I look at on the quarterly basis, it has been improving since last 4-5 quarters. And Japan, I think, is also improved in the last 3-4 quarters. So if you can share thoughts on these two geographies. What can be the quarterly run rate you can see maybe 2-3 years down the line for this two business?
Dhawan, I think this question was already addressed by Mr. Shah and Dr. Suresh, earlier. I think in the interest of time, maybe very briefly, if you want to just cover and summarize, that's fine. Because we are running out of time and there are still 8 to 9 people waiting for the questions. So broadly, we have covered as a run rate. Yes, as Shah and Dr. Suresh mentioned, as a strategy. Yes, we look at this exports growth as a sustainable growth, and hopefully we can maintain this kind of growth rates in the future for exports, both to our parent company SCC, their proprietary molecules, these 5 products which are coming for manufacturing next year, and also for the Latin America market, the generic products, the off-patent products which are manufacturing, in both on account of additional registrations, additional products, additional volumes, we are seeing good momentum and good growth potential for the future.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir. Happy Diwali.
Happy Diwali.
Thank you. The next question is from S. Ramesh from Nirmal Bang. Please go ahead.
Hello. Thank you very much, sir. Let me wish you all a very happy Diwali. My first thought is, since we have discussed so much about tebuconazole and glyphosate, can you give us what is the share of these two products in your overall revenue?
So on an annual basis, none of these products are more than 15%. And on quarter to quarter, sometime this could be in the range of 15-20%, but overall on a yearly basis, I think we have only one product in the bracket of 10 to 15%, and rest all the products are less than 10% our total revenue.
Okay. And the next thought is in terms of your current capacity, if you want to grow your revenue, say 8 to 10% in line with industry, what is the spare capacity available? What is the operating rate now?
Overall, on a company level, we would be in the range of about 75 to 80% for our technicals, and whatever capex we have mentioned, this 100 crore, that is an extraordinary capex for additional products. For the existing products which we already have capacities for, generally we spend about 70-75 crore rupees every year to increase the capacities in line with demand. So I think we do not see it as a challenge or any bottleneck in terms of capacities in line with the demand in next 1 year, 2 years. Every year we keep expanding the capacities by debottlenecking.
Okay. So just one last thought. You have the categorization of specialty and generics. So just to understand, because in the branded you give the split between exports and domestic. So in terms of specialties, how much of that goes into exports?
So specialty business is largely a domestic business and not so much of the exports, because these are the global proprietary molecules which get sold in India. So for these products, there is no exports currently, and even if the exports will be there in the future, as was explained earlier, this will be to our group companies for, I think, as in the form of technicals.
So there is only one product in specialty group which we manufacture technically in our plant, which is exported to various affiliates of SCC. That will be around in the range of 80 to 100 crores.
Okay. So in the generics, how do we understand the pricing power in generics? So if you're looking at the difference between specialty and generic, specialty you're saying is fixed rate. So the branded products, do they give you the higher, potential in margins compared to specialty? And is that the way it works?
No, the margins are on the basis of at what price we can sell or what price the crop or the farmer can take it. So we have to go through farmer level cost of using our product per acre, and then the pricing is decided. So as I said that it will give us around 40% contribution, which is very much in line with major multinational products coming into India. That those kinds of margins are there. So that is what we are looking at, 40 to 45%, something like that. So
yeah, that's on the specialty. So what I want to understand is you give this split between branded and bulk. So if you're looking at the potential for margin expansion in your company, see, do the branded products give you similar spreads compared to specialties, or is it somewhere between the 30-40% range? How should we read that?
No, you are talking about specialty versus generic brands?
Yeah.
No, so as I said, the generic brands would have close to 30%, 28 to 30%, whereas specialty product brands will get 40 to 45%.
Okay. So the branded is basically generic brands. Okay, that explains it. Thanks a lot. And yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot and have a good day. Happy Diwali.
Happy Diwali.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rohit Nagraj from Emkay Global. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. So the first question is in terms of margins. So you alluded that second half the margins may be under pressure, and if we have heard the commentary from the other domestic agrochemical companies, they have actually indicated that Q2 margins were the worst hit because of input cost inflation, and Q3 onwards there will be rather respite on the margins front. So just wanted to have the understanding about the industry saying probably margins will improve here on because of the price hikes that everybody will start exercising, but we are alluding that probably will have some pressure. So your thoughts on the same?
I think what industry is talking about is establishing the prices, new prices of which the costs have already gone up. That those costs is in the inventory. What I am talking about is what is not in the inventory, because the prices. Suppose if I compare my pricing of October, and if I compare at what price it will be available in January, February, March, there is a huge difference. So I am talking about passing on that cost. As I said, we are not worried at all about passing on the cost which is already in our inventory. That cost will be passed on. The real challenge is going to be that this very high price which will be coming in for the shipments in Jan, Feb, March, that will have to be also passed on, in addition. That is challenging according to me.
Sure. That explains. So the second small clarification, just now you had indicated that we'll be having maintenance capex of 70 to 75 crores every single year for debottlenecking, some small expansions, etc. So normally, what is the kind of capacity which will get released in terms of, if you can quantify in terms of revenue potential from this 70-75 crores of ongoing maintenance capex?
Yeah, see, over a period of just to give a small example, over a last 3 years, we have expanded tebuconazole capacity from 65 tons to 130 tons. So it is already doubled. We are further expanding this capacity now from 130 to 165 tons. So per month I'm talking about. So that is a kind of capacity expansion. Then this fluroxypyr, we are expanding the capacity to 300 tons. From we were making nothing as a matter of fact. And this current year was the first year of our export of this product of some 50 tons or something like that, small beginning. But we are expanding it to 300 tons. So those type of capexes will always come. We have two sort of a multi-purpose plants. So even there, we try to keep on increasing the capacity of one product or product which is in demand. Like we have expanded capacity of quinal phosphate, for example. So these are the few examples of capacity expansions.
Right, sir. Got it. Thanks for the explanation, and Diwali wishes to the entire team.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we take the last question from the line of Abhijit Bora from Sharekhan. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, sir. My questions have been answered. Wishing happy Diwali to everyone on the call.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question. I now hand the conference over to the management for closing comments.
So thank you very much all for joining. I think we have discussed enough, and that I don't think that I need to make any closing remark. I can assure you that we'll be as diligent as we have been so far. We'll look into every aspect of our business with the microscope, and we will see that we remain investor friendly, we remain compliant, and we don't give you or our investors to give a chance to complain. So with that, I would say that thank you very much for joining in. Some very interesting questions, and I hope that we have been able to answer your queries. At the end, I would like to once again say Happy Diwali and prosperous New Year. Also, I would like to suggest that the COVID is, of course, the situation is much better than what we have seen in the past. But still, I will urge each and every one of you to be safe, wear masks, don't party very hard, and really be safe.